What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Kumite Lifestyle. This one is special. Today, I'm sitting down with Joey Coleman for the second time on the podcast. Joey wasn't just a guest, he was the very first guest that ever believed in this platform before it was anything more than an idea. And now, full circle, he's coming back as the final guest to close out 2025. In between those moments, a lot has changed. The brand grew, the conversations got deeper, and Joey hit a massive milestone in his journey, earning his black belt in Gracie Virginia while continuing to lead, coach, create, and raise the standard for everyone around him. This episode isn't about titles or belts, it's about consistency, character, community, and what happens when you stay the course even when no one's watching. This conversation represents exactly what the Kumite Lifestyle stands for: growth over time, connection over ego, and walking the path with people who make you better. Let's close out the year the right way. Happy New Year's, everyone. What's up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Kumite Lifestyle. And today we are joined by Joey Coleman, who was the very first podcast guest that we had on, I think, back in August or September. So, Joey, we're super excited to have you back. And I know a lot has happened in between that time for not only yourself, but for the brand Kumite Lifestyle. But the reason why I wanted to have you on today was because I know that you just accomplished a huge milestone in your martial arts journey, Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. So what happened within the last couple of weeks?
So we went out to Gracie University in Torrance, and we had a couple days for a black belt test. And we had our promotion ceremony, and we came back with our black belts. Me and another guy from the gym.
Awesome, dude. So huge congratulations to you for that, because I know that's not an easy feat, whatsoever. And anyone that's been in martial arts or does any type of martial arts, whether it's jujitsu or taekwondo, karate, what have you, and speaking from someone that's been in the arts for a long time, every black belt means something a little bit different for each of us. But I know personally, having trained alongside you and being in your journey now within the last few years, it's been awesome to see that progression. So again, congratulations to you for earning your black belt. And one thing that I want to kind of just start off with is, so I recently as well got my brown belt, and you just got your black belt.
Yeah.
So it's pretty awesome that we can share that moment together. But it always fascinates me, Joey, when people I don't know, whether it's a comment on social media or even just in real life, when people say, "Oh yeah, well deserved, good job, well deserved." And I always thinking, how do you know it's well deserved? I mean, like, for
Yeah.
when I got my brown belt, hearing well deserved from you means a lot more, because you know what it took. But it cracks me up when people that don't train at all are like, "Oh yeah, yeah, Nick, well deserved," or Joey, well deserved. How do you know it's well deserved? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I get the sentiment behind it, but I struggle to kind of grasp the understanding of how can you say well deserved when you don't even know what it's like.
Well, I mean, if I would say anything, I think a lot of times you're pretty honest about who you are, and I think sometimes, and I understand what you're saying, because we've had these conversations before about just within teaching and doing certain things. But honestly, I think, and I thought about it before when we had this conversation, that I think a lot of times people just know who you are, and they know your character, and they know that you don't do anything halfway.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of like an assumption. That they're congratulating you in a sense of we already know, and I think it's well deserved. They say well deserved regardless if they train or not, because like I said, they know who you are, how much effort you put into things, not just in the sense of doing jujitsu, but what you do for jujitsu. You know what I mean? So yeah, but I do understand sometimes how that could be seen as well, you're kind of not really part of the process. So it's almost like, I think sometimes people take it as it's you're able to judge me on how I did,
Yeah.
even though you weren't part of the process. But yeah, I think honestly, I would take it more or less as that they know your character. So
Yeah, that's a good point and a really good perspective, and I appreciate that breakdown. Yeah, I know that's something that we've talked about, and something that I've talked about with H. Howard Steele, and he's kind of not frustrated with it by no means, but kind of more just it's how do you know? It's like if someone graduates police academy, or someone becomes a Navy SEAL, and I say well deserved, how do I know it's well deserved? You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah, yeah.
But
The easiest way is just to say congratulations.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, for sure. So anyone out there, if you're ever on social media or if you're ever congratulating someone, I get the sentiment well deserved, and I think you broke it down pretty good. But like you said, just say congratulations and move on from there.
Yeah.
Um, unless you've been there yourself and you can kind of like understand, what that feeling is like and that accomplishment. So for you, right, when you got that black belt, I like aside from the test itself, what was that like feeling, Joey, when you got your black belt strapped up and like I'm sure there was like millions of emotions or like feelings going on, but for you to become a black belt and know that you earned it, the right way, what was that like?
Honestly, bro, I am the most underwhelming person when it comes to this situation.
Yeah.
I was expecting huge emotions, and honestly, I don't like. I was like, "This is awesome. This is fantastic." Of course, I got my black belt now, and then when I put it on the first time, I was like, "It looks funny," and everybody kept saying it looks sharp on you, it looks good on you. But honestly, unless I look down, I don't know any difference because honestly, and they say a lot of times going from brown to black is not too much of a difference. It is still you're putting in your time, but honestly, I think just I don't know. It's just one of those things to where I don't ever want to get into my mindset saying this is where I'm at. We had a guy there that was the one biggest thing he said. He said, I don't want to end. What this doesn't end. If you look at it that this is your end, then that would be kind of sad. But to me, it's just like kind of starting back over, maybe getting a deeper dive. But I don't think it really changed anything because we jiu-jitsu and just the grappling martial arts in general, it's so deep in its understanding and its ability to move and change and to learn that to me it's another day in jiu-jitsu learning something new, and my belt doesn't negate me learning anything from you or anybody with a lower belt either. We teach each other all the time. It's the whole reason why when I went up you went up. That's it goes that way because we're all kind of like working together for all this. So
Yeah, yeah,
but yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, and there's a couple of things that you said there, like initially where, like the black belt shouldn't be the end all be all. Like, and I don't think any rank should be the end all be all, like if you're training for the right mindset. But a lot of this could be based on where that, individual is and where they kind of view, each belt at. I know for myself when I was working through the ranks for Ishinu Karate, I would see students over the years and they would get their black belt and then they would quit. And I'm thinking like why,
Yeah.
And again, like I know everyone's journey is different. So it's hard for me not to project my own kind of like values. But, when I'm in the room with these, said individuals and, working alongside them and over the years, like pick up little tricks here and there. And like you said, like you kind of I guess level up together, but it is kind of like a head scratcher. I'm like, you spent like 4 or 5 years or more, honing in your craft. And I love how you said that it's just another day. It's just another like progression, if you will. And I think that really comes from the mindset of like you're training for the right reasons. Like you're not
Yeah.
out there chasing belts. And I think as we get older, right? Because I was listening to the podcast the other day, and someone was saying that every 2 years, every 3 years, our mind kind of shifts and the way we see the world changes too. So I think it's the same for martial arts. And when you're around people that don't necessarily care about like when's the next belt or when's the next stripe, you can really focus in on what matters. And I
Hmm.
think that's what kind of separates jujitsu from other arts. And again, not to speak in absolutes, but it does take longer for most jujitsu practitioners to level up. And I would love to get your take on that because I know that you started kind of with the old school way, like initially. So, like, why do you think it takes longer to progress in jujitsu, belt system wise, than any other art?
That's a good question, and let me see if I can answer this without trying to offend anybody.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because I don't want what I say. I don't want it to like downplay any other martial art if it's a faster system. But I think that it takes they have it set because they want you to have a specific understanding. even in jiu-jitsu, it's known across the board for the most part. I don't know if every school does it, but you have to be 16 to even get a blue belt, 18 to even get purple, and then to progress after that. But I think it takes so long because they want to make sure you're actually capable, and that you have that understanding, because each belt level has a specific mindset goal of kind of understanding of like where you should be, how you should be thinking, how deep of a level you should be thinking for each belt is super important. And I think that's just what takes so long is retraining everything, because once you get, and to go back to the belt, I was more excited to get my brown belt than I think it was to get my black belt. I
Yeah.
think getting my black belt was more of a like the test and stuff was just more making sure that I earned it,
Yeah.
that it was mine. But I think the brown belt was more or less like, now here comes a different way of thinking. And I think from brown to black was like having that deeper level of understanding of how things work mechanically. We talk about all the time, like Howard just had the seminar before the promotion ceremony. He talks about all the time, is certain mindsets and ways of thinking, and being able to break things down, not just mechanically, but have a physical understanding of the principles. So I think when you have to change your mindset that much between each belt, that takes a while. You know what I mean? That's like
Yeah.
quitting a habit. You know what I mean? It takes time for you to get to that point, or starting a habit, or starting a trend of lifestyle that you want to start. It takes time and progression for that. So I don't think I'm glad it's not about, okay, how many techniques does this person know?
Yeah.
Because don't get me wrong, there's people that compete and they have a very vast library of techniques, that they're able to use. Now, how proficient they are, I'm not sure, but they do have a big library, but their deeper understanding might not be there yet. That's probably why they're not getting promoted at a certain point. But I think that's kind of what creates this longevity in between belts and jujitsu.
Yeah, and I think like no, like I love that concept and that breakdown, and something that we are like the system that we're currently in right now, Grace University, so shout out to them, is in the GU, like curriculum. And I can only speak for what I've been kind of raised and taught with. That's why I love the outside perspective that what you have to offer as far as jujitsu is. We focus a lot on the basics, and like the mechanics, the fundamentals, like you were mentioning, which is why like it's easier, when you have that strong grassroots, that linear progression, it just makes more sense as opposed to, and this could go even for like any other type of martial arts. You come in on your first day and like you're showing a technique and then you're kind of thrown into the wolves there. It's kind of it's not organized in that sense where the belts in itself is organized because there's linear progression in between each rank, and there also comes that maturity as well. And I kind of and I would agree there too. Like I just got my brown belt, but man, that's like just holding the belt and seeing it. It's my favorite belt by far. Like
Yeah, yeah,
even when I got my blue belt, that was a cool moment. Like when I got my purple belt, it was a cool moment. But this belt, like, it definitely hits a little bit harder because like I know the work and like how much I've progressed. And I don't know, like I know this is something that I've talked to you about, kind of like that imposter syndrome. It's like, do I really feel like I deserve this belt? And I went home that night and I said to myself, I'm comparing a lot of myself to you, like, to Joey. And, he's at a level higher than me where maybe, conceptually I'm not there yet, but I know the more that I'm around you, the more that I can pick up little things. And we have great scraps, whether we're
yeah,
going at it or, kind of just, exploring. But I was going back watching some of our videos on the cam. I said, yeah, like I can kind of like it's one thing when you're in the moment, but when you can kind of see it from another perspective, it's like, oh, like I can hang with Joey, it's like
yeah.
this
Like I know
guy.
what I'm doing.
Yeah, but sometimes those assessments are hard. And going back to what each belt kind of feels like, I feel like a white belt is like you have permission to fail. There's really
Yeah,
no expectation. It's like, oh yeah, like you're a white belt. It's kind of like you're supposed to get tapped out. And then once I feel you get the blue belt, you feel like you know something, but that jujitsu mountain is still very very high. Where then you kind of start comparing yourself. And I know for myself, I felt that, and even some of our blue belts here, because how many times have you heard people say like, oh man, like I thought I knew jujitsu, but I don't. Like you do. but you're at a certain level where you only know so much. And then purple belt, Joey, this is where I feel like you really start to develop your game. Like you
Yeah.
have a good understanding of the basics, or you should. And then you kind of know what's worked based on what you failed and what you had success as a blue belt, because you know what mistakes not to do, and vice versa. And now at brown belt, it's like, man, like it's kind of like a higher level of responsibility. It's like I'm responsible for making sure that I'm still doing what I was, but still bringing up the people like below me. And I can use you as a great example, because all this time and even now, like you were still progressing, but you always made sure that those below you always got better. And that's something that's like, I don't know if I've ever said that to you in the past, but I just want to say now, like you have a way of, like, you always get good, but you have a way of bringing others up with you. And I think that's either you do it or you don't. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it would make no sense not to. You could do it with love. You could do it selfishly. It doesn't matter, but you need those people.
Yeah.
If I plan on getting better, I need you guys to get better. Like, it would make no sense to have me just going up and nobody else going up, because guess what happens? I don't go up no more. And
Yeah.
now we all just sit stale. So it doesn't make any sense. And then plus, I love playing that chess game anyways. So, if you guys aren't getting any better, it doesn't become fun anymore. But the one thing that when we were talking about the foundation of or the what we call the basics, but it would be the foundational aspects of what we do as far as Gracie Jiu-Jitsu goes, is in combatives and all that stuff. In reality, your knowledge, so I would say, like, to understand each belt, where you're at for each belt, is how well you know the combative system. Because ultimately, even when we were doing our test, and obviously we're grappling, I'm not getting too much into it, but that was the main thing, was like, if you had the foundational aspects of your combative techniques, of your hooks and your movement and your pressure, putting things into place properly, you know what I mean? That made a whole world of difference. It's like having you have your canvas and then you paint on it. Well, people who don't hold on to their basics, because even us, we have higher belts. We're like, make sure we go back to compatives. We're always going back to basics. It'd be like having no canvas and just throwing paint everywhere. Well, now you got to find all those paint splatters to bring in your techniques. It makes no sense. So you got to have that foundational grounding before you can add anything to it. Because if you don't, then there's nothing there for anything to hold on to, anyways.
Yeah.
And I think that's where at GU they kind of like everything's mapped based on how well your basics are. I mean, that's what H always says. My advanced knowledge of the basics will always beat your basic knowledge of the advanced. And that can never be more true in anything.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I think we're very fortunate to be in a curriculum in a system where it does emphasize those basics, like you said, and it's something that carries on because, something that I always like, I still laugh at it today when people come in, especially when they've graduated out of combatives, which, to be clear, no one graduates out of the basics.
Yeah.
It's just permission to, continue your journey in this curriculum style, if you will. But isn't it fascinating when, people they move out of the basics class, if you will, and then they start watching, these YouTube videos and they try to
Mm-hmm.
mimic it. I'm like, bro, you can't even, like, you're not even a master at the basics, let alone
Yeah.
trying
Yeah.
to mimic something
Yeah.
off of YouTube.
It's like, how do you even get to that position to begin with? Oh, I don't know. I just saw this is cool.
Yeah.
It's just, but then how are you going to use it then?
And I get it, I mean, because you spend like 8 months to a year, sometimes longer,
You
depending
get
on,
excited.
yeah. And I think that excitement holds. I think that should kind of help, kind of fuel and kind of motivate your journey, but it can't be the reason why, and I think
Yeah.
ones that, have stayed in this for a long time, even yourself, especially, is that you stay true to those, those fundamentals and those roots. And I know that is also true, as a wrestling coach. So I,
Mm-hmm.
I want to kind of jump ship now. So you just got your black belt. So I know that's been, that preparation leading up to has been very time consuming and demanding. And
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
shout out to your family too for understanding that, because and we've touched on this, man. It's not all about you. It's not about me. It's about, the people and, the family that, supports that. So having that strong support system definitely helps
Yeah.
as well. So um I think that's important. And now let's kind of shift gears now to wrestling, because during all this, you also have been coaching wrestling
Mm-hmm.
from a local middle school. So when did your So let's kind of go back because I don't think we mentioned this in your previous podcast, but when did you start wrestling?
Oh, good question. I want to say it was like sixth grade, but I didn't. There wasn't a club. I don't think I did it. There wasn't a club at the time. If there was, I wasn't part of it. I had a friend of mine that I grew up with, Nick. His stepdad at the time was like, "You guys want to wrestle?" I was like, "Sure." We had like just wrestling around in the yard. So they're like, "Sure." I didn't know too much about it. My family, nobody in my family was wrestlers, so it was
Yeah.
one of those things. I had nobody to kind of guide me. So he was like, "I'll take you guys." I remember he took us to it was a little Senators tournament.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Yeah.
oh man, yeah, I was probably like 11. That's a long time ago. And yeah, of course I sucked, and I got beat right away. But I was like, "Oh, this is pretty cool." I didn't care.
Yeah.
You go get your pizza and hot dog, which is not always the best things to eat, but that's usually what they have.
It's like a
And,
celebration. It's like you knew what to look after. It's like I might
yeah,
not win, but I know I'm gonna get a pizza.
some
Or
hot dogs or whatever, some snacks up the concession stand.
yeah.
Maybe get a T-shirt I can wear, look cool in.
Yep, yep.
But yeah, no, and it kind of took off from there. Then I started seventh grade, and then I wrestled middle school, seventh and eighth grade, all the way to high school. Unfortunately, I didn't wrestle like a year and a half in high school. I because I broke my neck playing football in high school, so I
Yeah.
was out a full year, and then I got really dumb and I got mad and being the dumb kid I was, I punched a door and broke my hand my senior year. So I was out a half a year, and that was with Pavia. Got
Yeah, yeah.
upset about that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I would have been a lot better wrestler. I have one of those stories where it's like I could have done better if I would have not
Yeah.
messed around too much. I was taking things seriously. Right before I broke my neck, believe it or not, I was running like all the time. I was working out, I was working hard. A lot of the guys that I worked with ended up becoming state champions. And then, yeah, that kind of put me back. And then my attitude never fixed itself. And I continued with it a little bit here and there, helped after, not really coach, but just kind of help the program afterwards for a little bit. And then I kind of stopped. I didn't get back into it, honestly, until my daughter, my middle daughter, Marley, wanted to wrestle. And I was stoked. I was like, what?
Yeah.
I went to go look for my wrestling shoes, couldn't find them. So I was like, oh, I got to buy new wrestling shoes.
Yeah.
So she wrestled middle school year. She got third in the state, which was awesome. And then was going to coach I got approached to coach the high school girls team at Smyrna. And of course, she backed out. So then I felt kind of weird about like being coaching there with my son. My son started wrestling too. She's been wrestling for a little bit now. And for a year this month, he'd been started. So I was like, I'm just going to see because the middle school opened up because the assistant went to a different school. So Matt Bivens, the head coach, gave me the okay to go over there. So now we're at the middle school, and yeah, it's been pretty good. We're 5-0 right now. Hopefully we can keep it up. But
Yeah.
yeah, I honestly, man, I love wrestling. It's just
Yeah.
it's another grappling system. And then you did an interview with Kurt, and I was up to high school today. I love watching him teach, honestly. So I go anytime I get a chance, especially on these holidays when the middle school doesn't have as many practices. I go to the high school and I'll sit and watch, and because we're trying to carry everything that he's teaching down to the middle school, so
Yeah.
that way they already have it coming up. So I'm always picking that man's brain and watching real carefully with him teaching the kids. So.
Yeah. So huge shout out to Kurt Howe, who was a four-time Delaware state champion, and you guys can check out his podcast that I just did about a couple weeks ago. So, you said something where you started wrestling kind of at a younger age, and like most kids, like didn't take it as serious, and then it's always the shoulda, coulda, wouldas, right? It's like
Mm-hmm.
go back now, and I can say that wholeheartedly knowing you, just your knowledge of wrestling and how much because bro, like you've actually helped inspire me to get back into it. Because
Yeah.
similar paths. I started a little bit later. So I started in high school under Coach Tom Pavia that you just mentioned, and then I did all right. I guess my only claim to fame is I got third at JV States, which at the time that was pretty big because there's a lot of like. So just to kind of put it into understanding. So you have your varsity, which is your main like your main starting lineup, and then JV, it's like, all right, if you're not on varsity, you can go to the JV tournament. So there's actually more kids at the JV states than there is
Yeah.
at varsity. So that was pretty cool. And then my senior year, I did all right. I placed fourth at a couple tournaments, but never the success that I wanted to, of course. But again, I just wasn't good back then. It's one
Yeah.
of those like had I started maybe a little bit sooner or maybe
Yeah.
took a little more serious, it's always like I never want to gripe too much in the past, but I'm so fortunate that we still get to wrestle today. And then, and then having your kids also wrestle too.
Yeah.
And then, I think our love for wrestling now, Joey, kind of it expounds on for our love for jujitsu because when we watch grappling matches, and I'm just going to say grappling, just in a general sense, but we see it from a totally different
Oh
perspective.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
like there's a kid now that I love watch wrestling, a Tyler Knox from Sanford, and like
Mm.
his scrambles are it's very much like jujitsu-ish. So when we see that, we're like, oh, that's jujitsu. So
Yeah.
like for us, it's not really it's not like it's not uncommon for those that are just strictly wrestling, fans. So
Yeah.
I'm curious now. So now that you're coaching wrestling and you've been around it, for the last, couple of years, how is that kind of how do you kind of integrate that now with your jujitsu?
Um, yeah, now the teaching methodology, I'm trying to kind of spill over a little bit more, especially with GU, the way GU use SPF, the way we teach and all that stuff is very important. Um, but I've seen a lot of it within the scrambles. We come in here, we mess around, with all the getting in the funk positions and stuff like that. A lot of the scrambles, a lot of that. Is kind of based on jujitsu scrambles. So, even funk defenses now. So you're kind of seeing a lot of this like slight bit of merge. I know some wrestlers don't really like the idea of jujitsu melting into wrestling, but
It's because they don't know it. That's why. Yep.
yeah. And honestly, I'm seeing it there, and I think honestly, it's made my wrestling much better.
Yeah.
Just a quick shout out. Hopefully, we can get some type of older person wrestling club eventually started because I talked to a guy that started one in Jersey. It's shout out to Matt Burn Wrestling, and then the guy that does Mat Return Wrestling in PA. He's doing a really good job with those guys. So it's one of those things where it shouldn't. We have jujitsu. We should also have that as well.
Yeah.
That way it gets a little bit of everything. And honestly, you can just see so much of it how it's like kind of getting over to that way because when I was young you would have never saw people scrambling like that. You would have
Yeah.
never saw people diving over top of people instead of sprawling out
Yeah.
into water or getting into waterfall positions or stuff like that. People would have been like, what are they doing?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like the evolution of wrestling has definitely changed over time, and it has to because, as time changes, the sport, I don't want to say it changes, but it kind of just evolves because now you have like these kids now they have more access to social media, they have access to more, training opportunities than what even I did like in high school. And it's not a bad thing. It's just, kids now are just taking more advantage of what they have. And it's the same thing for us. We have more opportunities to see wrestling kind of just on our phones. Plus, I mean, huge shout out to, some of these main platforms out there, but they're streaming wrestling more constantly. So
Yeah.
I think that the viewership goes up because your general audience has more access to like matches and just, these highlight reels, which is definitely cool. Something that I wanted to ask you, and I just thought of it just now. So wrestling is a competition-based sport. And it is a martial arts, just like karate or boxing, taekwondo. But something that I hear a lot, Joey, is especially in the jujitsu realm, is like when you do jujitsu, I think people just assume like, oh, compete, compete, compete. And I can tell you, like, of all the years I've been doing karate, I never ever once felt forced to compete.
Hmm.
Even when I was doing wrestling, I would never felt forced to compete because it's either, hey, you're either varsity or you're not. So
Yeah.
it was kind of more like, okay, like I can learn this, but I don't know what it is, and like I heard this the other day on a podcast where, jujitsu, like I I guess I guess the overall perception is if you do jujitsu, you have to compete in order to prove that you actually know jujitsu. And sometimes I think that's so backwards
Like,
in a sense. You know, so like
well, I would say it was
what's your
100%
take on
true.
that?
I think it's 100% true.
Yeah.
And funny enough is I don't compete,
Yeah.
but I do compete. What is their definition of competition? Do you not compete every day inside your school? Do you not
Absolutely.
compete every day that you're training? Just like wrestling. To say that those guys aren't competing inside the gym practicing, they are. They're practicing, but they are competing. They're not just competing against each other, they're competing against themselves.
Yeah.
So it depends on what competition is, because it makes no sense to say competition in the sense of actual like tournament competition is the only way to show that your jiu-jitsu works. But that doesn't make any sense, because just doing the jiu-jitsu with each other is showing you if jiu-jitsu works. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? We do it all the time. So they're speaking on a sense of like that type of competition. But that only works for some people. What if the guy just started at 50 years old?
Yeah.
What is he supposed to go? Where is he supposed to compete at? How's he supposed to compete? That makes.
ADCC.
So you're telling me that he doesn't know jujitsu, or he doesn't belong in jujitsu?
Yeah.
That's these people that have this idea of like this separation of like jujitsu is mine. It's only for this group of people. It's not for everybody. Those guys that tribalistic attitude that, oh, you don't have cauliflower ears, or you're not banging around and sweating all over the place and coming
Yeah.
out with black eyes, which is well fine. It happens. We've had plenty of black eyes. Our ears are messed up. But the thing is to me, I don't need to go and, at my age, especially, my knees are already getting bad as it is. I don't need to go get some kid go put a heel hook on and try to rip my leg before I even get a chance to tap.
Yeah.
And that honestly, it's not going to even prove anything anyways. I've
Yeah.
done competitions before. I've won some. I've not won some. So it doesn't. Yeah, I don't know. That still doesn't change my knowledge of jujitsu. I don't find anything against competing by any
Yeah.
means, if that's what you want to do. I mean, I loved competing. I like doing more wrestling competitions than I do jujitsu competitions, honestly,
Yeah.
only because I have the sake of not coming out with like severe knee injuries from footlocks and stuff. But I don't think it makes any sense to say that's the only form of competition in itself.
Yeah.
We should be kind of competing against ourselves, like you say, on a regular basis. We should be getting 1% better every day.
Yeah.
Therein lies the competition in itself. Did you get 1% better? If you did, then great, you won for the day.
Yeah. Bro, it's so fascinating things. I love that breakdown because, I like myself, I've never competed in jujitsu, but like we get tough matches in here all the time. And, I've been to open mat seminars at other places. So like I've grappled with other people. So, and honestly, it's no different. I mean, yeah, like maybe their understanding of jujitsu is different, but if you have a really good solid foundation of defense and you have a good offensive setup, you're going to be just fine. But again, I will say that, safety is definitely important. And like you don't appreciate that until a little bit later on. And dude, I had a conversation not the other day, but recently it was in Ocean City. So I was walking on the boardwalk and I noticed a guy wearing a jiu-jitsu shirt and I knew who he was off of YouTube. And I was like, oh man, that's so and so. He's trained with this person. And we just had a nice conversation. And one of the things that I asked him, Joey, was just like, now that you're at the age that you are, and again, this person had been training for years, black belt, and a very like, trained under like a highly reputable black belt too, and kind of more sport based, but or I'm sorry, competition based. But and I said, hey, like now that you're at the age of where you're at, what would you change about your jujitsu? And bro, he said exactly what I thought he was gonna say. He said, man, I probably wouldn't have trained so hard, and I wouldn't focus so much on chasing medals or things that it's important at the time, but it doesn't define who you are. So I
Yeah,
mean, it's crazy how we learn those things either later on or sometimes too much later,
yeah.
I don't know.
Well, yeah, and you can get a little bit from both. Because honestly, man, I'm gonna tell you right now, those sport guys miss a lot in the ability to slow down. There's so much in the slowing down of when you're doing jujitsu that is important, and that makes things easier and harder for the other person. It also sets more things up, and a lot of like sports jiu-jitsu is how wrestling is. It's very fast paced. It's very move, move, move. So a lot of it, they're missing out on learning those type of things. Not saying that they don't have ability to learn other things that we probably don't focus on as
Yeah.
well, but they're not getting all of it either. So at some point when they do slow down, then obviously they're picking those things up and realizing, hey, kind of missed out on this aspects too. But I honestly, I would never go out and say, if you don't do this, or you don't do this, or you don't do this, that you're not doing jujitsu. I mean, jujitsu is jujitsu. Not everybody competes,
Yeah.
not everybody, and we're in the sense of like, sanctioned competitions.
Yeah.
Um, but I think that people do jujitsu for all reasons,
Yeah.
and to automatically say their reasons invalid and because they're not competition based reason that they don't do jujitsu would just be silly.
Bro, I'm just gonna say this right now, and I'm not gonna name drop anyone, but we've had people kind of in our inner circle that have competed, like years ago, and I think, is what it is. You compete for whatever reason. And I remember one time, it was before a tournament and they were kind of saying like compete, yeah, like how come you're not competing and this or that. And again, it's their choice, but it's funny how a lot of these people that claim that you got to compete in order to prove your jiu-jitsu is good, a lot of these people don't even train anymore because of
Yeah,
injuries.
yeah,
So it's almost like, I mean, you're not really
exactly.
qualified to even tell me to compete or tell anyone to compete when A, you don't even do it, and B, you don't even train anymore.
Yeah, and how many people remember you?
Nobody.
And I we've known people that were pretty darn good too. That
Exactly.
so it's like how many people remember you? No, no, not many people remember you because that those people come and go. I like even the Gordon Ryan's and stuff. He's slowed down now. He's doing gi jiu-jitsu and stuff. He'll be remembered to a point,
Yeah.
but after so many years, you're not going to be remembered like that. You're not going to be held up. I don't know what people are chasing in all reality, because that's what you just said, and I've heard one guy that's been on Instagram before that's like, I wouldn't even go to a gym coached by anybody that's never competed or isn't a gold medalist or winning gold medals on a regular basis. Well, buddy, if they're out there winning gold medals on a regular basis, who are they coaching?
Yeah.
They don't even have time to be coaching anybody. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? The people that are teaching you, for one, are usually the ones that are taking time to perfect their craft to teach you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And two, that makes zero sense because that means there's very, 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 very few people in this world that you get to be taught by. So what about the rest of the people? They just
Yeah.
have bum coaches apparently, and it's still again their ideas really lack a bit of sense. So
Yeah. Yeah, dude. It just, I don't know, like I said, the older we get, it's like every what 2 to 3 years, our mindset kind of changes. So just my overall view of jujitsu has definitely changed, and just being around H, being around you, and just kind of like seeing like, you can still obviously get better every day, and you can still raise your standard of jujitsu without having to sacrifice your limbs for what, like a $5 medal.
yeah, yeah,
But I think there is like a lot of there's merit to competition itself. Just real quick, going back into that because I've competed a lot with karate, and I know you've competed too with wrestling. So I think just that building up to that stage or that event, I think for me that's always been it's the most rewarding, like, traveling because I mean, we've spent a lot of time on the roads just traveling, like, going on vacations, whether it's jujitsu related or not. But you take that experience and you can insert a tournament or you can insert, going on a cruise or insert going on to an adventure. It's everything leading up to those moments. So I think there's definitely, value into any type of preparation. We just can't I just don't like when people say that's the end all be all. It's like if you're not competing, if you're not doing this, then you're not. It's like no, bro, don't devalue me because I'm not doing what you're doing.
yeah,
Where what I am doing is working just fine. You know what I mean?
yeah. Yeah, and in reality, you could train yourself as if you were competing and still not have to compete and still be the same.
Yep.
Like you said, it's that lead up. A lot of these guys, especially even like certain wrestlers. You look at like Bo Bassett, for example, dude. All his work is done way before a match ever begins,
Oh
dude.
yeah.
He pushes up, like his pace is just unreal, and I think that's what most of his wrestling is, because
My
if you
pace.
watch him, he don't know me wrong. I'm not going to say anything about the boy. His technique is very good. He's a good wrestler, but if you watch him, he makes like, some sloppy shots at
Mistakes.
times. But guess what? He always capitalizes on everything. Dude, he could throw garbage at somebody and still capitalize on it somehow because his pace is just unrelentless.
Yeah.
The boy is he's a monster of cardio. So it's one of those things to where like his what he's earning right now is actually all that prior to.
Yeah.
His ability to even do what he's doing is all that prior to. So it's one of those things where like you don't always have to. You could just train like that and then not even have to compete. You'd still be doing the same thing, just not competing.
Yeah. Bro, speaking of the Bo Bassett, and I'm glad that I can ask you this now. So I know we watch a lot of college wrestling, and so I've had a lot of cool wrestlers on, just in the time that I've had this podcast, and we talk about like the Bo Bassett's and these kids that have that transition from high school to college, and it always like fascinates me, Joey, how like you take like a high school stud, whatever state, whatever their accolades are. Because by the time you get to college, everyone's probably done the same, if not more than you. So I think college is a good equalizing, playing field for the most part and across any divisions, but I wonder like why do some high school kids struggle with that transition from, the college level? And I think a lot of it has to factor in with you know, that mental fortitude. It's like you're not training in your hometown anymore. Like you're not training with your friends and it's a
Mhm.
new environment. But as a coach, like and like I know you're coaching middle school, but let's say hypothetically, right? You take a kid that's from middle school and they're going to high school and then they're going off to college. Like, what piece of advice would you give to that kid to say, hey, like, even though you're good now, because motivation can only last so long. It's the discipline, it's that mental fortitude that's going to carry you on. So, as a coach in both jujitsu and wrestling or just grappling, if, like, I don't know, if I was going to go off to college and you were my coach, knowing your understanding of wrestling now, like what advice would you give me to allow me to still stay on the path and realize like, yo, like you can still get better. Like this isn't the end all just because you got recruited by like a top D1 school. Because I think
Yeah.
wrestlers feel like once they're there, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I don't got to get good anymore. No.
Yeah. I will speak about this on my knowledge of jiu-jitsu of progression because
Sure.
I don't think I'm qualified to speak on the wrestling side of of a kid going to that far into college into a D1 school. But if I was to say anything, and I was listening to, it was a I forget the gentleman's name, but he basically coaches coaches. He coaches like bigger club teams. He coaches their coaches on how to create certain wrestlers for certain aspects. And I would say, if anything, you your ability of your filing cabinet of moves should be very limited, but the variations of those moves should be kind of finite or infinite in the sense of your ability to adapt on each technique. Like if your takedowns is a low single, you should know every finish from that low single as much as possible, even to the point where if somebody created something new, you could adapt to it.
Yeah.
um that's how you dig deeper onto things. That's how you get so good to where, like, for instance, Jordan Burroughs is double leg. I don't really know too many people that stop that. Why? Because he perfected it so much, and you've had so many guys try to stop it and try to create ways of dealing with it and try to, use certain motions or hand fighting to deal with it, and yet they still can't because Jordan Burroughs took that double leg and he made it his own to where he had the foundational aspect of it, just like in jiu-jitsu, and then he variated it to where he found so many variations where he understood the principles and mechanics of it to where if somebody did throw something new at him, he was able to adapt to it. So I would say that would be your key in understanding of going into college. Obviously, you have to be open, but I know you've made comments before, and I hope that most college coaches have. I think it was it UNC coach that said,
Yeah.
We're not here to change you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like we're
Yeah.
here to take what you already know and make it better. And I guess that's kind of the point I'm making. Like that,
Coach Rob Cole. Yep.
yeah, that should be your aspect. Your aspect, I know in jiu-jitsu that if I like this technique, this technique, like for one thing, my favorite for one position is mount. Two is high mount, like S mount arm locks, any type of high mount arm locks, stuff like that. So I'm going to use variations of that in so many ways. And I found you guys fighting it in so many different ways to where I had to adapt to it. But because I have the understanding of it, the balance of knowing where my weight has to be, it was easier for me to adapt. And
Yeah.
I would tell any kid wrestling wise, especially in high school, later in high school, they should already have that starting.
Yeah.
They should already be breaking that down. And that's what I'm trying to do with my son right now. I'm trying to find what he's more comfortable with. I'm kind of playing with different things, what he's more comfortable with, and then seeing how he plays with it, and then just starting to focus on those little things from there.
Heck yeah.
Because there's only so many things that a person can do that doesn't go outside the principles of whatever technique it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think So basically, just having that early foundation, from the start, and just keeping that same mindset. And like as Coach Rob Cole said, the UNC head coach. So what we're talking about is a video that I showed Joey, I think maybe about a month ago, and like it was just a really cool take about how, when athletes get to the any Division 1 level, like meaning any sport in Division 1, I'm sorry, and then not going too much away from what got you there in the first place. And it's kind of the same, like you said, in jujitsu. You get to a certain point, and that's why I truly believe, Joey, that once you get the purple belt, that's when you really start developing your game, because you
Yeah,
have a good idea of the basics under you. Then you start, kind of putting things together, or as I say, chain wrestling, if you will. And bro, like I think another reason why these athletes kind of struggle aside from the skill set is the environment, because
yeah,
like I think now with the NIL and this transfer portal, while that's good for the athlete, it can be detrimental for an institution, because you have all these coaches and assistants that are pouring their heart and soul, let's say on a top prospect recruit or even a transfer in, and then just like these athletes, there's no commitment anymore. Like there's no loyalty. Like it's like at the end of the day, or at the end of the year, like, oh, like yeah, Joey was a good coach. He didn't get me like all American status, but you might have been the best coach for me. But kids are like, I don't know. It's just like it's an easy way out. It's
yeah. I
crazy
keep seeing kids decommit. Like,
within the season, which
um,
I didn't even think you could even do that.
yeah. What was the kid from Jersey, the four-time state champion kid that had
I'm not sure.
the he had that like the criminal issue at the end of the year, and they were about to not let him wrestle. I just saw he decommitted
Knox,
for.
Knox.
Yeah, he just decommitted.
Okay, Cornell. Yep.
Yeah, so there's a lot of kids like Bo Bassett decommitted from. I don't know their situations, but
Yeah.
I'm not. But it's just like I'm like, wow, all these kids are just like they commit and they decommit. It's like it's crazy that they even have
With the
the
option.
ability to do that. Because to me, I'm like, you let me go to one of those schools, I'm going.
Well,
You know?
it's kind of a catch 22, because I remember when I was talking to Coach Tony Ramos on the podcast, he was saying something along the lines where you get a kid that comes to your program and, on paper it might be a great fit, but then you learn very quickly if that environment's for you. And it's the same thing here when we
Yeah,
teach, like we can, put amazing stuff on social media and say like we're this and that, and which isn't a bad thing by no means, because I feel like you should definitely build up your school or institution. But yeah, just because we're great at what we're doing, like as H says, we aren't the teachers or the coaches for everybody. And I know that has to be the same for a Division 1 school. And but the problem is, before the NIL was even a thing, you would get these kids that would go to schools for whatever reason, and then they're kind of stuck there for 4 years. And when
yeah,
you feel like you're stuck and you feel like, oh great, now I got to be here, you're not going to be open to learning, which is why that transfer portal and the NIL kind of came about. And again, I don't know the ins and outs on it, so I'm not speaking in absolutes, but it's a catch 22.
yeah.
It's beneficial for the athlete, but at the same time, it's not beneficial for the
For the
athlete.
program, yeah,
Yeah.
program itself, yeah.
Interesting. So yeah, so like I know we touched on a lot, but I wanted to also kind of round this off of because I know that we definitely didn't talk about this in your first, sit down, but I know you're a tattoo artist. So kind of talk to us about that and like where that passion comes from being an artist itself, because like jujitsu and grappling, it's very connection, feel.
Mhm.
And I know when you're tattooing anyone, I've always wondered, Joey, do you kind of get that same, not gratification, but like your love for tattooing, does it kind of transcend, for your love for grappling?
Yeah. I mean, it's just like anything though. I have to kind of like sometimes remind myself that it's a passion and not a job. There's
Yeah.
times it feels like a job.
Yeah.
And jiu-jitsu can feel that way sometimes too.
Oh
I
yeah.
guess it's kind of like I kind of got to be there. But then I always remember that we just need to be grateful that we even get to do it, and
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing. But no, I love tattooing. Doing I've been an artist my whole life. I went to school originally to become went to school for animation. I didn't really like it because it was like mostly computers. It was terrible computers. I wanted to be more of a like a what do they call it? I basically wanted to create characters myself. Design the characters, come up with them. It's not graphic design or anything. It's basically how people would, if they were doing like the storyboarding or something for a movie or something like that. But I wasn't too much into it. So I kind of left. And at that point in time, we ended up going to Iraq. So I was like, by the time I got back, I was like, no school no more.
Yeah.
So I ended up started tattooing because I went and got my first tattoo. I was getting tattooed in Florida for a little bit where I lived in Tampa. And then I made friends with the guys. And I was like, oh, this seems cool. I could do this.
Hmm.
So I tried to look for an apprenticeship, couldn't find one. And I ended up doing it myself. Next thing you know, it took off. I think I've been doing it for 21, 22 years now.
That's
Been a
awesome,
long time.
man.
It's the longest job I've ever had. But
No, that's
I
cool.
love it. I love it. I it's I have to watch myself because now the invention of like the popularization of the iPad and having all these different programs, and it makes life a little easy that I kind of gotten away from a lot of like my paintings and hand drawings and stuff like that. But I try to get back to it as much as possible. But yeah, no, I love tattooing. I like doing black and gray more than anything. I do color as well, but
Yeah.
unless it's Japanese stuff. One of my favorite ones. I did a full leg sleeve on this guy Jared. It's a full Japanese leg sleeve. Took exactly a year to the day we finished it. The last little bit of touches. I don't know how he dealt with it. I wouldn't have been able to sit all that sit with all that. I'm a big baby when it comes to getting tattooed. So no, I really enjoy it. Like I said, I have to sometimes kind of balance out that, you know, I will say I've never hated going to work. There have been times I'm like, man, I'd rather be doing something else, but I've never hated going to work.
Yeah.
So I've been blessed with the job I have. But I do a decent amount, pretty much. I'm not as busy as I used to be. I think the tattoo industry's gotten there's so many people that do it. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that. I mean, there's a lot more people that want to get tattooed now. So,
Yeah.
but I'm getting a younger generation again. I think a lot of my generation and the people that I was tattooing, my regulars, have kind of like either ran out of room or they're getting older, and
Yeah.
so my daughters help with that. So now I'm tattooing a lot of
Her friends.
their
Yeah.
friends and stuff. So but yeah, no, I love it. And yeah, I work at Walls of Wonder, obviously. So
Yeah. Yeah. So huge shout out to them as well. And that's awesome that I didn't realize that you'd been there for so long. And you said something where sometimes, like, some days you don't feel like going in, but like you said, just like, excuse me, kind of living in that gratitude state. And then you
yeah,
also, like, mentioned your family as well and your daughter for kind of helping to bring, potential new guests in. So I want to kind of round this up, stepping back from the family roots, if you will. So your family all does jujitsu too. So now that
yeah,
you're black belt, now that you've kind of seen their progression and where you guys are at right now, currently in your life, and I'm talking about your media family. So like, what's that been like? Just knowing that your kids train, your wife trains, because again, I sometimes have to take a step back and kind of see it from more of a someone that doesn't train, mindset.
yeah,
I mean, for you, like that, that's got to be awesome knowing that your family, they're training in a system that is
yeah.
can be trusted.
Yeah, I got a pretty dangerous family, so no, it's pretty cool. I love the fact that my wife's on board with me. That jujitsu is not so all my kids have to do sports or something of the nature. Jujitsu is not allowed to be in one of those choices because it's automatic.
Yeah, yeah,
It,
yeah.
it's you live in my house, you do jujitsu,
Yep.
and my wife stands by that as well. We're getting Marley back, which is funny because I got her to buy wrestling shoes.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
she's gonna start doing some wrestling again with me. But I love the fact that they all do jujitsu. Because when I go home and we got to talk about jujitsu, guess what? She wants to talk about it more than I do half the time. So, and I
yeah,
love being able to keep teaching. Jude's been doing it probably longer than anybody out of the family other than me.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, Marley's gonna start back again. She's got to do. Ashton told her she's got to do twice a week. She
Yep.
don't care if it's women empowered and combatives or one or the other. Whatever combination she wants to make, it has to be twice a week. Well, she needs to because she's good at it.
Yeah.
Keely's like really pushing to do more now. Because she's coming off her back injury, so she's back in and she's able to roll. And we have the Smith machine at home now, so she's like constantly working out, get strong, ready for jiu-jitsu. And Ashton just loves it. And man, I tell you what, uh, when I roll with her, she's a lot tougher than you would typically think. She's
Yeah.
very strong, and I love it because when we roll, she sticks to the foundational aspects of it, which makes it hard,
Yeah,
makes it tough. So no, I'm super happy that my family. It took a long time to get my wife into it,
I
but
know.
now that she's hooked. She's
Yeah,
100% hooked. And then we've built a huge family here, So
yeah,
we're all connected inside and out of the school. So it's
yeah,
it's really nice to have that together. And now you guys got you doing karate, so now
yeah.
we're like 100% sold into everything. So
Yep. Yeah, no, that's awesome to hear. And yeah, I appreciate you sharing that family perspective and just, how beneficial it is. And, for anyone that's ever on the fence of learning jujitsu anywhere, I would say just, do your research first and foremost and kind of like analyze your whys of why you want to do it.
yeah,
There's a lot of reasons why, what people, get them started. But and I can say here, like, at Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Smyrna, it's like we never know the reason why people start training with us, Joey, but as instructors, we know that when they leave, they're going to get, as I say, 1% better, but people stay. So people start for the self-defense, but people stay for the community, as you were saying.
yeah.
So that's
Yeah, and there
pretty
was
cool.
three things that I put on my Instagram before that I had wanted to say that just always popped in my head was if they asked me what to advice to give as a black belt was to never forget why you started, to always remember the time that you wanted to quit and you didn't,
Hmm.
and to remember this is not a race alone, but it's a long walk with friends.
Yeah,
And,
that's
and I,
awesome.
that's what our community is. You know what I mean? That's what our jiu-jitsu school is. It's literally everybody working together to make each other better. So
Yeah, for sure. I love it. Um, so Joey, I know you just kind of gave a really good indent there about your family, but is there anyone else that you would like to give a shout out at this moment? I always allow my guests to do that right at the end of each episode.
shout out you and H, bro.
Yeah.
You guys, you guys have made it. And let me not forget Nick Furr.
Yeah. Yep.
He was my daytime, but beat up buddy. He helped make me better too. But yeah, you and H have always you guys have been pivotal in my growing here in general with becoming an instructor and training. And you've caught the brunt end of my gruffness before a couple of times where I've had to text you later and be like, dude, I'm sorry. And
Yep.
I was out of character. I shouldn't have yelled at you because I was didn't want to do. I was being a baby and I didn't want to do certain thing that we were told we had to do, and it's because I knew it was hard and I was just being
Yeah.
lazy that day. And you know what? You just looked at me and went, "Well, I don't know what to tell you," and we did it anyways.
Yeah.
And then I apologized to you later, and that's the cool thing. You already knew that it wasn't personal,
No.
and no, but you guys have really pushed me, and I thank you for both of you guys. You
Yeah,
guys,
man.
be. I don't think I'd be where I'm at without the push of you two.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Same, bro. And like, I mean, you've done a lot for me as well, just over the past 5 years. And it's crazy where like, what's the saying? If you want to go far, if you want to go, I'm going to butcher it. I think I just saw it this morning, Joey, but there's a saying like, if you want to go far, go fast. But if you want to, you know what I'm talking about, right? Thing is,
yeah,
oh, dude, thing is, I know like once I end this, I'm going to remember. But basically, if you want to go far in life, don't go alone. Basically, like,
okay,
have
yeah.
your support. Things I'm sure someone's going to watch it and be thinking, yo, Nick's stupid. How does he not know?
No, well, we all use all your lines. Use your whole team, man. That's all it's about. Use your
Yeah.
whole team.
Yeah, maximize your connection. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Joey, so where can people find you on social media if they want to, get in touch? Because I know you mentioned Walls of Wonder,
Oh
but I want
yeah.
to make sure that, the viewership can find you if they ever have any questions about
Yeah.
life, jiu-jitsu.
Yep. So it's Joey C Tattoo, and it's a side profile picture of me. It's a black and gray side profile picture. I don't think there's anybody else that's Joey C Tattoo, but just in case. But
Well,
yeah, you guys want to message me on there? Great. If you're gonna get a tattoo, I'll probably send you my cell phone as well. That way you can text me through there, and I can set up appointments from anywhere. So yeah, if that's what you guys want to do, I would love to meet new people. So
sounds great. All right, Joey, thank you again so much for your time, dude. It was an honor to have you on for the second rendition of the Kumite Lifestyle Podcast. Enjoy the rest of your day, bro.
you too, homie.